For decades, Israel has lived beneath a looming shadow, the nuclear ambition of Iran, cloaked in denials and wrapped in rhetoric. While peace treaties were inked with distant Arab neighbors, Israel's eastern horizon stayed restless. And then, on the night of June 13, 2025, Israel chose silence no more. The IDF struck deep into Iranian territory. Natanz, Isfahan, Fordow, not for expansion, not for revenge, but, as Israel claims, for existence. These weren't just any strikes, they hit at the core of Iran's nuclear program. Why did Israel act? First, nuclear red lines had been crossed. Israeli intelligence claimed Iran resumed uranium enrichment at weapons-grade levels, possibly with outside help. Second, regional threats were closing in. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran-backed militias in Syria, drones over the Negev. War, for many in Israel, didn't just feel possible, it felt inevitable. And third, deterrence. By hitting Iran's nuclear core, Israel wanted to send a message: we will not wait to be victims. Inside Israel, the shock of sirens quickly gave way to a rare unity. In Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, debates raged, but across political lines, most Israelis stood behind the operation. For them, this wasn't just about Iran. It was about survival, in a region where history rarely offers second chances. President Isaac Herzog called it a defensive strike for the peace of tomorrow. The Knesset convened an emergency session and ratified further security measures. But the world was watching, and not everyone liked what they saw. The United States, Israel's shield behind the sword, launched Operation Midnight Hammer only 48 hours later, targeting Iran's remaining nuclear launch sites. President Trump declared, "We stand with Israel in the fight against nuclear terror." Airbases in the UAE and Qatar fired up. Yet back home, a familiar question: was America about to be pulled into another endless conflict? Russia, meanwhile, played the cold dissenter. Moscow condemned both Israel and the US, calling the strikes reckless. But beneath the surface, Russia quietly welcomed the oil price surge. With its own war in Ukraine, Moscow had no appetite for direct confrontation, but saw opportunities: higher oil revenues, less Western focus on Ukraine. China urged restraint, offered to mediate, but didn't back Iran with arms. Their main concern? Disrupted oil flows and economic shockwaves rippling to Beijing. The message was clear: don't burn the house where trade sleeps. India, always the tightrope walker, called for peace. With deep ties to both Israel and Iran, Prime Minister Modi picked up the phone to both sides, practicing careful diplomacy. Balanced, thoughtful, and peace first. Meanwhile, the shockwaves spread beyond governments. After Israeli airstrikes, over 100,000 Iranians fled Tehran, fearing more bombs, more chaos. Oil prices jumped, then shuddered as rumors swirled about the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical oil choke point, being closed by Iran's parliament. The world's economy sat on a knife edge. For Israel, this war isn't about oil. It's about preventing a nuclear holocaust. But as the fighting drags on, Tel Aviv knows the world might not stay on the sidelines. Israel faces huge challenges: retaliation from Hezbollah or Syria, the risk of global isolation if civilian casualties rise, and the never-ending uncertainty of Iran's covert capabilities. Maintaining trust with countries like India and the global south will require careful, patient diplomacy. In the end, for Israel, this is not about pride, not conquest. It's the echo of Holocaust memory, the story of Masada, the promise of never again. Surrounded by hostility, sometimes isolated by morality debates, Israel moves, because, in its eyes, waiting could mean vanishing. The world may judge, some will support, others will criticize. But from Jerusalem's point of view, this is not a war. It is preemptive peace.